What does this cookbook mean to me? It's everything. I am the first ever patient of the Wellness Way, and so I've been doing this a long time. So this cookbook is about deconstructing old family favorites, or even new ones, and recreating them using healthier ingredients.
You can eat healthy and whole foods while still following your food allergies.
What's all the fuss about TWW Plus? I'm so glad that you asked.
TWW Plus is trending on school.
Uncensored content you won't find anywhere else.
School is cool.
There's a lot of great information on there.
We are raising the bar on good health at Wellness Way School.
Christie's Peanut Butter Dream Pie.
We never stopped going to school.
And neither should you.
Subscribe to TWW Plus.
Which is better? At Nordic Naturals, we do it better. Better for parents and children. Better for princesses and superheroes. Better for go-getters and brainiacs. Better for families. Better for the ones we love. Nordic Naturals. Better for you.
SaunaSpace. Get ready for full spectrum transformation. Combining cutting-edge technology and nature's ancient wisdom, SaunaSpace offers handcrafted infrared therapy solutions for whole body rejuvenation. Meet Luminati, the compact portable sauna optimized with the powerful healing benefits of heat, light, and grounding therapy. Meet Faraday, the world's only EMF blocking sauna. Convert any space into a sauna space with our tungsten panels. For targeted relief and soothing comfort all day long, bask in the glow of our portable photon therapy light. Our full-spectrum Thermalite technology offers the most efficient and effective sauna experience that you can feel. Try it for yourself with our risk-free home trial. Learn more at sauna.space.
I'm back from Montana, and for some reason, I'm just feeling sassy today. So let's enjoy the show. And good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Patrick Flynn, a very proud chiropractor, and thank you so much for joining me today on A Different Perspective. I am always so excited that you guys are here with me on Saturday mornings. I was gone last Saturday, and I want to thank Dr. Lucas and Dr. Antonio for being on the show last weekend. You guys did an absolutely wonderful job. I got to pop in and out because actually I was suffering for Jesus on the golf course with three of my closest friends in the world, Dr. Sampson Fenley, Dr. Jeremy Maxwell, and Dr. Brandon Vincent. We had a wonderful time on Montana where Kalispell, where we saw where we're going to be building our new building out there. Yes, Dr. Sampson and I bought some property out there along the major highway. We're going to build a beautiful facility. So we went out there. We spent some wonderful time. Christy joined us on and got to spend time with Dr. Alex as they did more stuff for the from scratch, everything. So it was an absolutely incredible time. And there's something when you're around other great men that just testosterone naturally goes up. It really does. I mean, I'm not joking. It's just like, but naturally you get a little gur. And you get a little gur, you get a little spicy, you get a little sassy. So obviously I'm around some great men this morning and great women. And also my daughter's here too, my young ladies that we do have. But then all of a sudden, I was prepping for the show and I saw something. So I might be a little sassy this morning because this stuff just drives me nuts. Because I think psychology is a good field, but boy, is it overblown. It's all put through a feminine prism, and every boy that has a tough time, it's like a mama's babying them, and all of a sudden, it's like, it's just, so I think the whole psychology profession is absolutely ridiculous. I think so many people are on medications that do not need to be on them. I think that's the psychiatric world. And I didn't even plan on talking about this today because we got a really cool topic, but then I saw this and they published this, like, this is just great things. So I have an opinion on it myself. So let's see what it says. From a study of personality and social psychology, Bolton found that couples that do unhealthy activities together, like eating junk food, feel closer than those who choose healthier activities. Yes. Do you know why they feel closer? Because they're fatter and there's less space in the universe, so they're closer to each other. That's about the closer you get when it comes to it and stuff on there. So I said I was gonna be a little sassy today. I'm like, what? Just ridiculous. You're encouraging bad behavior. Why don't you just promote more bad behaviors and just say, Mike and I, for example, are good friends. Mike and I are just going to go rob a bank, and we're just going to feel closer together as men as we do something horrible and stuff like that. Let's just encourage more bad behavior to make people feel better about themselves. Why don't we just hold people to a higher standard and make our society better? And then everybody benefits and stuff like that. Because listen, as they do more junk stuff, let me ask how their health is years later. And as they're sitting in a hospital bed, suffering, sick on preventable illnesses, let me tell you how close they get when their sex life goes down, when their family's destroyed, when their money is taken away. So study in personality and social psychology, Bolton, I think you need to, please, hopefully, that you didn't get money from an NGO and actually do this kind of stuff, because what a waste of money. That being said, good morning, everybody. It's nice to see everybody. All right. And as I travel to Montana, I want to talk about another place we have coming up in Florida, as we can see here next year. Guys, tickets are going to go on sale pretty quickly here on Leadership and Longevity Seminar, May 15th and 16th of 2026. So excited for it. We had some amazing people. We already have some people signed up to speak for next year. And we got a couple of surprises. We're working on 2 very awesome speakers for next year on top that we already have. And we're going to have probably 8 speakers, 2 wonderful days of information. And once again, good longevity speakers, good leadership speakers, as I covered last week, what they are. And thank you for all the comments on the show last week on how important leadership is to me, my family, and everybody around us, but also longevity, which we get to practice every single day. That being said, guys, as you know, we have our wonderful book as Christy and Alex were working on it last week, even more from new things coming out from our shows. So you can see here, the Scratch book still sells at such a high rate. It's pretty awesome. But now what happens? We can go to Christy and her announcements that she does have this morning.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Christy Flynn, and as you know, Dr. Alex Fenley and I created an amazing cookbook from scratch. Well, recently, as Patrick mentioned, I had the opportunity to go out to Montana and visit Dr. Alex in person. It's always such a fun time. We're coming up with all kinds of ideas. We filmed some content, and we are so excited to share with you what we've got cooking up for the summer. So how do you watch us? If you're not already on TWW Plus, you need to get there. So TWW Plus on School, we have a show called Cooking from Scratch. And as doctors, Wellness Way doctors and health restoration coaches show you what to do on your health journey from scratch, and Cooking from Scratch can show you how to do it. So how do you purchase from scratch? Well, you can go to Amazon. It's pretty amazing. We're available on Amazon. Grab your book today for friends and family, yourself. But also, we have 2 new episodes that drop in Cooking from Scratch every single month, so you don't want to miss that. Where else can you watch content? On our Instagram, Cooking from Scratch. Actually, not Cooking from Scratch, I apologize, fromscratch.cookbook, and also our individual, so Dr. Alex Fenley and Christy.m.Flynn, our Instagram accounts as well as Facebook. You can get all kinds of summer content. So we're talking, help with grilling and camping tips and outdoor entertaining, as well as gardening tips, and a new series called From Scratch Fridays at the Farmers Market. Let's watch this first episode. Guess what? Farmers markets across the country are starting to open. In fact, we just had our first farmers market. It's opening weekend, so very exciting. I'm here with my daughters like we always do, week after week, and we absolutely love going to all of the different vendors. We formed relationships within our community, and that's something that you can do as well. So what is my first tip? If you've never been to a farmer's market, how do you find those vendors who are focused on raising their animals healthier or producing their crops without chemicals? You ask questions. What are those questions? Well, first and foremost, if it is a vendor that has produce, you want to ask them if they don't have something posted that says organic. Remember, that organic certification costs money to get, but not everybody has the money to go through that certification. However, they may still produce their crops and their different produce without using chemicals. So ask them the question, do you spray with any kind of pesticides? Do you spray with herbicides? How do you produce these wonderful products that you have here? And have that conversation. This is how you get to know your vendors. And many times these vendors, year after year, will bring the same things that are tried and true that they love to bring, but sometimes they'll add new products. So again, as they add new things, asking more questions and just maintaining that collaborative relationship, you know where your food is coming from and you can trust the quality that they are bringing. So in the next few weeks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you to a few of my favorite vendors and kind of show you the different things that they highlight, how they advertise, how they talk about their products, and how they're really informing and teaching people, not just providing them with a product, but also showing them one step further of how to be able to use those products. So what I'm going to call this, From Scratch Fridays at the Farmers Market. Each week, I'll share with you some tips, some recipes. We might shop for different things. I might show you, hey, these are the things I got. This is what I'm thinking of making, just to give you some new ideas and help you to enjoy grocery shopping once again.
All right. Thank you so much for a wonderful time at the Farmers Market, Christy. That was pretty awesome. So speaking of awesome, let's go over to our giveaway booth. Remember, how do you win on all the prizes that we have today? Remember, comment, share. You can see it right here. Our wonderful little You Could Win little show as we do the episodes here. And let's welcome in today Dr. Kendra, Dr. Lucas, and always in the mental, Aaron Walton.
Good morning. All right, I'm so excited. You guys, it's been a while since the three of us have played together. So
Get the gang back together.
yes, this is good stuff.
Band camp days.
Band camp. Nope. Nope.
Tried.
All right.
Not here. No.
Not here. No. All right. So you are hanging out on Facebook?
Yep, I'll be
right?
on Facebook this morning.
All right. All right. What's your name on there? Just Kendra?
Yeah, Kendra Allen.
All right, so people know where to find you. All right, Dr. Lucas, where are you hanging out?
Well, I am going to be over on Instagram as well. It is a busy day. I'll hop back and forth wherever we have more of that activity going on. It's still Dr. Lucas.
All right, and what are we giving away today?
Well, it's actually a traditional medicinal food in China. Fun fact. We're doing astragalus. Pretty well studied for all of its immune system effects, I should say. I can't say boosting because you can't boost the immune system. That's autoimmunity at that point in time.
Yeah, so we're so excited for this. You guys know how to do this. Interact with us, comment, like, share, of course, and just keep that conversation going, okay? And then we'll check back at the end of the show. So, all right, Doc, what you got?
All right, before we get into our perspective, like I said, I wanted to cover a couple of things that are important because there's some things I want you guys to understand as, through the years. Like I said, through COVID, through even before that, it's always been quite interesting watching people evolve. So I actually watched a video the other day, and I'm going to play it really quickly, and we're going to talk about it after, because I like people seeing this kind of evolution. So let's watch the video right now.
You have a child, and you have a doctor, and the doctor is saying, we must inject your child with this thing. Oh, what's in it? Oh, it's an antigen that's going to alert your immune system to a disease your child hasn't seen. Anything else? Is anything else? Well, there's an adjuvant. Oh, what's that? Well, in this case, it's a metal. What's it do? Oh, it hyperactivates your immune system. In a specific way? No. Has it been tested to see whether it's safe? Oh, in humans? No. Has it been tested in anything else? Rabbits? Was it safe? No. I mean, like, how dumb does this have to get before you're like, wait a minute, doctor, you're putting my child in danger?
Yeah. Now, it's interesting. A biologist talking right there, speaking that way. Now, today, it's kind of more acceptable because what happened with COVID. But for 30 plus years, we've been saying this. So welcome to the club, okay? Now, if you think about it this way, it's very important to see that things can be very unsafe. It's really interesting because when you look at some of the factors, now remember, I've created analogies and I've talked about this many times before. I look at, like, my analogy, the fire department carpenter. Medicine's the fire department, great, put out fires. We're the carpenters, we build the body, it's totally different. But the idea is this, but when you're so dominant in one form of healthcare, there can be problems. For example, we're going to take a look at this. Medical error, reduction, and prevention. Guess what happens? Medical errors have been recently been recognized as a serious public health problem, reported as a third leading cause of death U.S. One study reported that approximately 400,000 hospitalized patients experience some preventable harm each year, while other estimates greater than 200,000 patient deaths annually were due to preventable medical errors. Moreover, medical errors has a high cost, with some experts estimating adverse events costing the healthcare systems $20 billion each year, and other approximate healthcare costs $35 to $45 billion annually for hospital-acquired infections alone. Wait, did you catch that? 35 to 45 billion for infections that you get in the hospital alone. Let's continue. Medical errors are negatively impact the patients, their family, involved clinicians, and support staff. Kind of like that article talking about psychology giving you really bad advice. It's going to lead to bad things. Healthcare professionals may experience profound psychological effects, anger, guilt, inadequacy, depression, suicide, due to actual or perceived errors, which the threat of impending legal action may compound. See, it's quite interesting. So that's why I tell people, you need to question everything. So I'm going to put this right here. Question everything. Question the things I talk about today. Question the things your doctors tell you. Question things that your church tells you. It's kind of funny. We call things dogmatic when you just take it by face value, but that's why it's very important to learn things. Now, you have a choice in life. You can either take somebody's word for it and fill up your time with entertainment, or you can do something that will change your life. And I've always said this, the quality of your life is based on the quality of questions you ask. Because you can just say, explain this, why, and other questions. It's really funny. We don't realize this, but we actually teach kids when they're younger to not ask questions. Do you ever notice that? You ever notice that every child when they're little say, why? And people get sick of answering them. I never get sick of answering my children about things because I want them to be able to deductively think. That's why we send them to a school that has more of a classical education kind of thing. Is there need to be able to defend your position and challenge people when they say things. And that's why I love challenging healthcare. I love challenging pastors in churches to the point where at the end of July, I will be speaking at a huge event and speaking at a church service on Sunday after the event. pray for those people. Anyways, so because it's gonna be quite interesting. So that being said, guys, I want you to ask quality questions because today I'm going to give you some why behind I believe that the public is so misled when it comes to public health, immunology, vaccines, and other autoimmune diseases that we need to know more about. So remember, the quality of life is based on the quality of the questions you ask. So let's get into perspective and ask some questions that you've never been taught to ask for before. Welcome everybody to Leadership Longevity 2025. This weekend is all about building champions.
You know, it's been amazing to watch the Leadership and Longevity Conference. I've been coming for years. What really strikes me is the diversity of this audience now. Now we're covering the entire gamut of what represents the heart of America.
This room, this organization, they're lifelong learners when it comes to both themselves as a leader, but also when it comes to the health of the human being.
I think this is the right message at the right time, and that there is a massive population of people who no longer trust our medical system, that aren't getting the advice they need to live better, healthier lives. I expect every conference is going to get bigger and better, and that this is just the start.
The difference with leadership and longevity is it's so much diversity, right? Like it's one of those multi-dimensional ecosystems, right? So it's not one thing, it's so many different things blended in just the right way to get the perfect outcome.
Thank you so much for joining Leadership and Longevity 2025. God bless. You guys have a great night. Let's have some fun. All right, speaking of questions, I'm just sitting during the commercial break there of our wonderful Leadership and Longevity Conference that's going to come up next year and going over our newsletter. Speaking of newsletter, we have one of our best investigative journalists in the house here today, which she's always here. It's Betsy. She's in back there. It's pretty awesome. She does amazing things, and I read those newsletters, and they spend so much time, hours upon hours upon hours, doing great investigation. And it allows you to actually ask questions and look at things that you don't get on a regular basis. Now, that being said, we have wonderful announcements that we do, and I'm going to turn it over to my daughter, Trinity. What do we got today, Trinity?
Hey, everybody. We are back with the weekly announcements. Now, if you want this just straight to your inbox instead of waiting till Saturdays, even though you get to see all of us, so it's nice. You can just go ahead and go to our website and scroll all the way down to the bottom, I believe, and enter in your email to be able to see all of our weekly announcements. So let's get right into it. Our top stories this week: why giving up dairy can be life-changing. I know everybody that I know with lactose intolerant and anything like that, not able to have dairy, they still do it. It's beneficial to give it up. Switch to goat milk, switch to all that stuff, but go ahead and read a couple of these things. Otherwise, my amazing mother has put out another, what's it called? Article. What is it called? Shoot, whatever. But absolutely amazing information from her. You're going to absolutely love it. And a little thing on pneumonia in case anybody's struggling with that. Our do-it-yourself naturally recipe this week is a DIY fruit and veggie wash. So for anybody who is out in the gardens getting their own vegetables and fruits like that, or just from the grocery store, go ahead and get a nice wash from there. Our recipe of the week is coconut macaroons. Macaroons. I don't know which is which, but it has two O's, so I'm guessing it's macaroons. I've heard it both ways. It makes no sense, but it's still good. And our events this year, week, month, I don't know. We have our July Get Fit month coming up. So be sure to go to our challenge group to see even more updates on that. And then lastly, the different perspective this week, we are starting a new series all about the immune system, our ultimate defender. So be sure to tune in weekly for as long as this one goes for. I don't know how long it's going to go for, but we'll find out. It's great information, so you're going to love it. And lastly, of course, check out these little links down here. We just put out some really fun videos. I know on TikTok, we did one really fun one yesterday. let's just say it was a Mean Girls type of thing. So you're going to absolutely love it. But that's all I've got. So back to you, Dad.
All right, thanks, Trina. Did you guys catch it? She did like 12 times. So, she was clapping there. So pretty awesome. Trina, great job. We're always proud of you for the woman that you've become. And not only you fantastic and brilliant, but you're also now great on camera. So great job. Continue that. And she works extremely hard with our wonderful team and our leaders that doing everything. So thanks so much. As you can see, we're going to get into something that is so vitally important to me. As you can see, it's the immune system, the ultimate defender. We are going to do a series for a little while now. Why? Because we're seeing more things come up. We're seeing things that need to be known. And I will tell you this. I had a wonderful interview with a very amazing PhD. And we were talking about things, you know, we're talking about hormones, we're talking about the immune system, we're talking about just care in general and autoimmune disease and everything. And the immune system is something that affects everything in the body. And the sad part is a lot of people are misled by it, and we're going to kind of cover that in great detail. So we're going to do a whole immune system series. We're going to call it the Ultimate Defender. As you can see, the pictures that we have right here, the shield and the cells and the boxer and the fighting that needs to do that way. So we're going to start off. So obviously, we're going to talk about some things that are very different from what we see out there. Now, when we look at the immune system, we think, for example, that when we think about it, we're trying to develop immunity. If you ask like a parent, okay, and we'll do this. You can go to the farmer's market, you can talk to your friends, your family, and you can say to them, you can say, you know, what is your purpose of your immune system? And they'll say is to make my child immune to this, or make sure they don't get an infection from this. And they'll use the term immunity. But I'm going to post a statement right here, and let's take a look. Immunity. It is time to expose the flawed premise behind much of mainstream immunology and public health narratives. See, what they've done is they've described immunity in such a certain way. They ascribed immunology to the public in such certain ways to create their own narratives. It's very easy to destroy their narratives if you understand the things I'm going to teach you over the next series. So I want you to, in great detail, watch this. And if somebody that you know after learning some wonderful things today, have them come back and start with number one, because we're going to set some of the foundations on there. Because here's the thing that I want you to see. This is always something that I've taught for 30 years. There's always a different perspective. It's all about your perspective. For example, let's take a look at this. You know, we're going to do it just like we did there, as you saw. If I hold this phone up to you and you were just to look at it, okay, just take a look at it. Okay, Mike's sitting in front of me here. Mike, you know, what shape would you consider this phone right here? Yeah, rectangle. Now we have Dr. Kendra, we have Dr. Lucas, and we have Aaron over on this side. Dr. Kendra, do you see a rectangle when I'm holding this? No, what do you see? Yeah, she's more of a straight line because she sees this. Let's go back to that picture. See, it's all come from your perspective. If you were standing to the left, you would see a circle. If you're standing to the right, you would see a square. Well, it's really funny. I step back and go, I'm holding the phone. You know what I'm saying? So I have a whole different perspective of it. What I mean by that is I can see the square perspective and I can see the round perspective. And therefore, understand that if you describe immunology, if you describe the immune system, you describe immunity from that perspective, both sides to go, that makes sense. But when you have a narrative, there's always that word that there's a lie after. What is that word? Yes, but. See, and that's what you see a lot when you talk to your doctors. So when you watch a show, people say, you'll come and you'll learn something, and you go to talk to them and say, yes, but everything they say is a lie now. Everything they say is a lie, by far. Because what they're trying to do is they're trying to justify their perspective instead of saying, I agree. Because if they say I agree, that means the narrative that they have will be destroyed. So kind of coming back to this again, let's do this. It's time to expose the flawed premises behind much of mainstream immunology and the public health narratives. And that's what we're going to do over the next couple weeks. Now, that being said, I want to talk about perspectives, because here's what happens. I'm going to show you, as I have this picture, and Tom, hold this up for a second. This picture, I'm going to show you that I'm going to show you two perspectives, and I'm going to tell you I kind of agree with two perspectives based on the whole immunology, based on the whole immunity, based on the whole immune system, just from this right here. As you can see, there's two perspectives. And I'm going to tell you, that I believe that they're both right. So come back to me, Tom, for a second. Let's go back to my carnivore friends. And let's go back to my vegan friends. Okay. Let's say the carnivore friends are over here. And let's say my vegan friends are over here. As you know, I'm more in the middle. What do you mean? For example, is this. I understand the benefits. I understand the benefits. I think we need a little bit of both. Now let's go back to this picture again. Now, if you see, they're totally opposite perspectives. Louis Pasteur is like the germ. The germ causes disease. And if you think of it this way, that is the current perspective that we see locally and globally. They've got us because we've been so dominated by healthcare today. And then what they'll do is they'll use great examples. And they'll say, oh my goodness, look at this person that died from this and died from this and died from this. And there was the infection. And they talk like germs cause disease. And it's pretty well documented as you come back to the picture. That Louis Pasteur said the microbe is nothing, the terrain is everything. But what's the terrain? Done by Béchamp. The terrain theory. Disease comes from a weakened immune system. Treat the patient, not the infection. Now, you're going to find it funny. So we're going to have this. We're going to have the camp over here. We're going to have the germ theory. Then we're going to have the terrain theory. You're going to laugh about this. I believe that you got to be in the middle. Now, wait, what? What? How is that possible? How is that possible? They're kind of two different perspectives. Now, for example, what do I mean by that? I'm saying that if you look at it from that perspective, I understand the actually medical system, germ theory. I understand the terrain theory. And believe it or not, how you choose to live your life will determine what theory you may have to live within. It doesn't mean that one is more right than the other. It just means you step back and go, where are we at and what are we going to do? Now, I, being a chiropractor, this is one thing I do love. I will always, now we even know we're taught in school, it's all about germ and all about germ, the same education. I would sit there and go, I disagree. I have a different perspective. But then one of our founding members of the whole profession said something that is extremely relevant today. And we're going to show you. Here we go. If the germ theory were true, no one would be alive to believe it. And if you said that to your doctor, what would they say? Yes, here we go. But, and then there goes the germ theory fear mongering. What do I mean? Well, what about the people in some third world country? And they show you how many people died from this infection, or your grandma who died from the flu, or the people that died from COVID. Oh yeah, we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. And see, that's why I told you, there's always some perspectives. And if we look, they might both be needed. If you look, for example, one thing I absolutely love, our carpenter and fire department example. It's been something that's been very pivotal to understand the wellness way and everything that we do. That's why when I get questions about treat, cure, diagnose, I'm like, those are medical fire department things. Those are germ theory type of things. But if you want terrain, carpenter, rebuilding, that's more of our perspective. But if you kind of look, kind of resembles it, doesn't it? Kind of resembles it, doesn't it? If you look, terrain, carpenter, fire department, kind of more the germ, medical, that makes complete sense. Now, what I'm going to do, though, is like I said, I believe that the perspective of immunology is very flawed. So I'm taking it upon myself to actually give you the case that not only is it flawed, but they're trying to show you health narratives that they're trying to do. And the end result is they're trying to push you into certain products that they want you to do and thinking, because then you're dependent on them. But guess what, guys? It's on me. So you guys are going to be the jury. And I have to be the lawyer in defense of the principles that I'm going to put out there over the next couple weeks. So it's on me. And I believe that the view of immunity has been so flawed and the misunderstanding of public health and actually their narratives. I want to start with it. So, my wonderful people of the jury of the US and countries around the world watching, I'm going to now present my case to you. And let's see that if I can be convincing over the next couple weeks. But I will promise you, this will mess with you. Because as I had to evolve through the process when I was in college, chiropractic college, postgraduate, postdoctorate, post-education, guess what happens? I had to wrestle through all these things that actually got my perspective to change dramatically. And so I'm going to show you a perspective that I believe that you can speak with anybody and they will not disagree with you. But if you challenge their perspective, they're going to always put that word in there. And what is that word? But. So here we go. So if you think about it this way, when everybody talks about the aspect, because the number one thing that they talk about immunology is it's all based on vaccines. You go back to my textbooks, and I'm not joking. If you look, when we go to our giveaways, look behind Dr. Kendra, Dr. Lucas, and Aaron. There's probably 30 immunology textbooks, if not more, and I have more at my house. I've read every one of them. Start to finish, you open up, I got my highlight markers, everything like that. And I can show you the transition of teaching the immune response and the immunity to now it's just basically every immunology book is just a vaccine, pro-vaccine book. It has. Well, our doctor said, yeah, they've been programmed since they were in college about it. And because they're told never question the narrative, Nicole Selesky, who is an NP, will tell you that they never taught you about how vaccines work. They just say you will actually accept them as the holy grail of everything. And it's like, now people did start to question due to the COVID pandemic. But now the cool thing is this. So let's talk about it. So let's go through the camps. And I told you, over here is my medical camp. Over here is my natural camp. Over here is my germ theory. Over here is my train theory. So here we go. Okay? Because here's what happens. They, on the germ theory, fear diseases so much that they put out these things and they show you some of these kids that pass away or people that pass away from infection. And then you have the other side of the camp that says, once you go through an infection, you never go through it again. Guess what happens? I'm in the middle. Do you see what I'm saying? And let's start here. So if we look at this right here, okay, in the comments below, and as all the docs and Aaron and everybody's watching, let me ask you a question. What infection is this? Yeah, it's chickenpox. Okay. Now you hear this. Once you go through chickenpox, you're immune the rest of your life. Well, not really. And see, that's a thing that on this side, that saying, okay, listen, I'm going to go through from a trained standpoint, take care of the body, and then guess what happens? I'm going to go through infection. And here's what happens. And over here, they say, do you know that you can die and you can go blind and da 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 da. I'm sitting there immediately going, yeah, you both have some points. But let's do this. Let's say that you did go through it. And then some years later, many years later, there were some things that happened in your life. And all of a sudden, this pops up. Now, what is this? Shingles. Okay. Now, one thing that people do not realize is that viruses do become a part of us. Actually, the varicella virus goes and lives in this little place called a nerve, the dorsal root ganglion. Look it up if you want to. It's the backside of a nerve on the spinal cord on either side. That's why if you know this, shingles breaks out on one side because it lives in the dorsal root ganglia by your spinal cord. And that's why if you notice, it doesn't cross the midline because we got a nerve root this way, we got a nerve root this way. And if that virus actually lives in that thing, the minute that they went through a stressful event, some medication, some chemotherapy, some radiation, some major event, which led to a what? An immune deficiency. That latent virus that was there to not only challenge and keep the immune system now resurfaces, and because it lives in a nerve, the dorsal root ganglion, now then actually starts to replicate there and causes massive pain. So who was right? So now they have a shingles vaccine. It's kind of funny. But anyways, the idea is this. Because see, the term immunity is kind of, if it was up to me, I wouldn't even allow that term to be used. Because here's why. It wasn't used in healthcare. It wasn't used when it came to understanding the immune response. But let's take a look. The term immunity is derived from a Latin word immunitas, which referred to the protection from legal prosecution offered to Roman senators during their tenure in office. It's kind of like, for example, if we had a Congress or a House or a Senate or a president, they will give them immunity. You hear a criminal come up and say, I'll give you the beans on this person if you actually give me immunity, which is no legal prosecution. That's how it came about. See, so if you look at it this way, and this is one thing that's a little frustrating, immunity, if you look, or immune meant protection from disease, more specifically infectious disease. So that's what they try to do. They try to take and go, okay, you get protection from a legal sense, so you're protected from some disease. So therefore, you have both camps. You have the germ theory camp that says, if you get this medication, aka you get this vaccine, you're going to be immune. And if you go through it, you're going to be immune. I'm in the middle. Mike, I don't believe either one of you. Okay. Now let me explain. You say, Doc, because you're more of a trained person. Yes. But then how'd that person get shingles? How'd that person get shingles? Well, the terrain was disrupted. Yeah. And maybe as we saw from that psychology, I'm just jumping on it because I had no idea we were talking about that until I stand up here. Oh, just have a bunch of unhealthy habits and you're much closer together. Yeah. You won't be too close if you both have shingles. You understand? You won't be touching each other at all. See, the concept of this is so misleading. So I want to show you. So let's take a look right here. The concept of immunity is flawed and clinically misleading to parents and clinically misleading to them, because then all of a sudden, this happened during COVID. You watch Biden, you watch Fauci lie in their public health narratives is get the shot and everything will go back to normal. How many times you heard this? It's safe and effective. Well, what they meant by effective is that you would be immune to that disease, immune to that infection. And as you know, it was massively flawed. And it misled a lot of people from across the world. And that's the sad part. Now, I just took this out of the page number 1 of actually my favorite textbook on immunology, cellular and molecular immunology. Here we go. The cells and molecules responsible for immunity constitute the immune system. So let's look at it a little different, okay? And their collective and coordinated response to the introduction of foreign substances is called the immune response. See, now that makes a little bit more sense to me. You say, okay, listen, the concept of immunity, the perspective of immunity is like, all right, there has to be something within the body, so we're going to call it the immune system, okay? Now it's quite interesting, because like I told you, with my past being all about immunology, and even present, even the classes I still take today are all based on it. If you think about it this way, is if you ask any professor, can you clearly tell me what the immune system is? And believe it or not, they can't. I can't even do it. I'm going to give you my idea about it, but that's all we really have. Because like you can say the cardiovascular system, a little bit easier to actually do it, the GI system. You can do these things and have a little bit more, but this thing is so complex. And that's why I kind of find it funny when they talk so strong about what they know, because we still find out new things and discover things all the time. Now, but you can see it collectively coordinates, as you saw before. It coordinates when there is foreign things that don't belong there. And that's called the immune response. And that's something I got obsessed with as a teenager because of my own health history, was all about the immune response. Why is it that I introduced a food and my response was almost life-threatening? Why is it that the response could lead to some bad things? But also, why is that response can wipe out massive infections that people fear all the time, and to the point where someone next to you has a debilitating cold, they're out for a week, and you were 2 feet away from them, and you never even got a sniffle. See, those are the things that you have to wrestle with and understand how this whole thing works. So I want you to think about, then what is immunology? Let's take a look. Immunology is the study of immune responses. Oh, I love that. To the cellular and molecular events that occur after an organism encounters microbes and other foreign macromolecules. Now, I believe it's more than that. But boy, I do love that definition, because you know why? You're looking at all of the cells and molecules that respond to its environment. And then it has to go, all right, I have to kind of deal with this. And so therefore, the germ people say, look at all these strong bugs. The trained people say, okay, listen, how strong is the house before the tornado came? And so therefore, like I said, I'm sitting in the middle going, okay, we got to look at a little bit of both of these. So to understand that, I kind of want to see how the immune system responds. So what is an immune response? So what is it? Okay, that's a big thing, because if we can start there, then we can actually kind of judge how is the train. We can probably even judge that when we do come in contact with a germ, that guess what happens? It's going to be either a positive or a very negative response based on how everything is. So let's take a look what it actually is. Here we go. It's all, not a singular, mechanisms used by the body as protection against environmental agents, both internal and external, that are foreign to the body. These agents include microorganisms, or chemical products, let's just say highly processed foods. Foods, even organic ones. Chemistry, chemicals, drugs, pollens, animals, and abnormal, let's even say damaged cells. Oh, so you think of it this way. Our different systems have to work so beautifully for us to get up in the morning, have good energy, do other things. And if all these things are synergistic in working towards the body, the immune system goes right by them. But if it's foreign, coming from outside or inside, if there's something that could be highly processed and doesn't belong there, you put your immune system in a state to respond to what's going on. And therefore, it's very appropriate to understand that this thing has to coordinate, not one singular event, but really sometimes hundreds of things at one time to coordinate, to deal with these foreign things. Now remember, the foreign agents can be internal or external. That means I could come in contact with some pesticides. You know, I went over and visited Dr. Jordan and saw their new baby boy. And as you guys know, I love golf. Oh, but I was so frustrated. We were on the golf course. It was about 7:30. There was nobody out there. It was absolutely gorgeous, peaceful. Birds were chirping, water, fish were jumping. And just sitting there with Dr. Jordan, one of my favorite people in the world. Talking about stuff, talking about life, talking about those beautiful babies that he has. Talking about, you know, just how life is going. Then all of a sudden, we hear a tractor. And behind it has a trailer. And it's got these large sprayers. And what do you think it was spraying? Massive, toxic chemicals. I love golf, but man, one of the most toxic places in the world, where they even recently had a study said, people that live close to golf courses, be careful, because there's some pretty damaging things that they put on there daily that can lead. Now, those are foreign agents. And I remember walking, and I'm like, oh, Jordan, he says, I can smell it, which means if I smelt it, it means, for example, that I came in contact with it. And so it was very disrupting, because now my body now had to respond properly to it very quickly so I could adapt. And that's one thing I love about the immune response, and here's a quote that I put out there. If an immune response cannot be activated at the appropriate time and the appropriate amount when needed, the body cannot adapt. Okay? I want you to think about this. We talk about all the systems of the body. If you have a stressful event, if you have a repair event, if you just have normal function, your body has to respond in the appropriate time, appropriate manner. Otherwise, we can't adapt. And we can't adapt, we eventually will do what? We'll eventually die. See, so I would tell people, you want to live the longest, what you need to do is you got to get your body to adapt in all systems. And that's why when you support your systems, you have a much better chance of adapting to all stressors that you come in contact with. So there's, you know, but it's kind of misleading though, because when we look at aging, we look at people, we look at kids, look at adults, because it's so misleading when it comes to public health, especially when immunology. Because if you look at immune system, this is what they show it when it comes to aging. Oh, when little kids are strong, as you get older, it goes down. Believe it or not, you could flip those swords, and then about the middle, you could start to go down due to the fact of how we take care of our kids and take care of people today. This is very common, but common does not mean normal through the process. So if you think of it this way, it's all about how you respond regardless of your age. For example, oh my goodness, SARS-CoV-2 is a elderly person's condition. It's the weak. Well, it's the weak. But you tell me that all elderly people are weak? Then let's go back to B.J. Palmer's quote. If the germ theory was correct, no one would be alive to even talk about it or even believe it. So then why didn't all the old people die? Yes, but, oh, wait, there comes the but. See, no, why can't we sit back and go, the immune system has a purpose. And as long as, for example, that purpose is still there and your body can now adapt to respond at the proper time, you could be 90 years old and get SARS-CoV-2, and you could be 6 years old and get SARS-CoV-2, and it doesn't adapt, and you could pass away. See, so those are the things, once again, the public health narratives are all pushed. Like you said, don't you care about somebody's grandma? And because of Dunbar's number, I say, not really. I don't give a crap about your grandma. I really don't. Nor do you that live in California give a crap about my grandma, even though both of them passed away, if it disrupted your life. See, there's the narratives. There's always a narrative. What are they trying to do? Okay. Now, that means the immune system has a purpose. has a direct purpose. And so I put this definition together to encompass all the things from all the textbooks there. And actually even sent it to a couple of my buddies that are PhDs and said, what do you think? And they actually got it back, like, we love it. So what's the purpose of the immune system? To maintain homeostasis, that ever fluctuating thing, by detecting and neutralizing threats. Let's come back to that. See, because here's what happens. I watch this with functional medicine people. I watch this with chiropractors. I watch this with medical doctors. Yet there is not one area of research that actually says this is correct, because it says detecting and neutralizing threats. Therefore, your immune system does not make a mistake when there's an autoimmune condition. I get so frustrated. If you say that the immune system made a mistake, you have lost me. You've lost me. Everything you say after that, I know you have no idea what you're talking about. Zero. Do you see what I'm saying? Zero. The immune system is very programmed, very calculated. And so therefore, if it attacks your thyroid, there is a very important reason. And it's even explainable. If it attacks your joints, if it attacks things, because you guys that have autoimmune disease, you're like, I'm just unlucky, my immune system made mistakes. That's not true. Let's go back. Neutralizing threats like pathogen, damaged cells, toxins, and restoring balance after exposure. It's not just about killing invaders. It's about regulation, repair, and that word I love, adaptation. Now, I created a graphic that I get to explain a lot of things through the world. And I love this graphic because it gives a really good representation of why some people can have a very interesting immune response and some people do not. And some people, once again, come in contact, you get somebody gets really sick from it, you get people that have no problems, you get people that don't even know it's there. So here we go. So I'm going to call this immune system homeostasis. What does that mean? It's always fluctuating. See, we want to be in that green area where it fluctuates a little back and forth. Our cells, maybe if our range for a T cell was, 10 to 20, that one day it's 11, one day it's 18, one day it's 15. It stays in that green fluctuating aspect based on how we do and what our sleep pattern is, all this. But we don't want to leave that. But if all of a sudden we get in that low area and get very low in deficiency, and we're deficient, now guess what happens? This theory over here, the germ theory, guess what happens? Now it's relevant. You get over to, let's go back to our graphic. Let's go over here and you stay in homeostasis or even a little bit high or even very high. You understand? Your immune cells are very highly active. They're inflammatory. And that's why if you notice, people that have autoimmune conditions where the immune system is very hyperactive, they don't even seem to ever get any colds. They have other issues. But the idea is, but your immune system, guess what happens? If your train is really good, then you just don't seem to get things because you have this immune system homeostasis that's always going to adapt. But if you get too high on the immune response, now it's very inflammatory. Now, it's really funny because I watch some of these TikTok docs and these TikTok or these other people that just don't like what we do and don't like things. But I can honestly tell you, I actually put the word inflammation out there, which has been around forever. But I mean, as far as in clinical practice, big time to understand it 30 years ago. Why? Because with my immune view on things, what happens is I'm like, yeah, and now do me a favor. I want you to contact any PhD immunologist, any immune person that has any kind of background in immunology, and you ask them the start of any condition, the start of any condition that can result, the start has to do with some inflammatory response. Why? Because the immune system now responds to it. But here's what happens, because now you see like these people like this guy in Chicago that Dr. Nathan beats crap out of all the time. It's pretty fun. On TikTok, he destroys them. But anyways, that being said, it's like, well, these chiropractors talk about inflammation and they don't understand inflammation. Oh, we understand it. Because we also understand right here, inflammation is necessary, but it must be resolved. See, if we go back to our chart here, if all of a sudden that there is a response that when your immune cells now, let's say they're supposed to be between 10 and 20, now remember, this is a made up number, and they now, and a pathogen or a damaged ankle, or you stick your finger with a knife or you have a sliver, your immune cells will go to that area. So Tom, go back to my chart. It will go to the right and it will go higher and very high and inflame. which is a necessary response. So yes, as chiropractors, even if you twist your ankle, that's why the concept of RICE makes no sense to me. Rest, ice, compress, and elevate. Rest, okay, good. You don't injure it more. Ice, you want to reduce the inflammatory response. So you're telling me that God-given natural response, your immune system says, I have damaged cells. Now they're foreign. They do not belong here. I need to repair. I need to adapt. You're going to reduce that inflammation. I don't get it. Compress. Okay, we're going to take that blood flow, which is needed to bring more immune cells in, more proteins, more amino acids, more things to repair. We're going to press and push it out. We're going to elevate it. Why are we going to elevate it? Because when we put it above our heart, we have less blood going through there, and there's going to be all these things that we can keep that inflammation down. So you just took away the immune response, help repair, and get rid of all the things that don't belong there. So you actually slowed the healing process down. Do you see, it doesn't make any sense. Yes, but there is a lot of pain. I understand there's a lot of pain. I get it. But, you understand? So your butt doesn't make any sense. See, so that's why it's kind of funny when I look at going, the perspective they're putting out their health initiative. You know, I watch this happen all the time. My daughter played soccer the other day, and they won, of course, and stuff. But the idea is this, is they were out playing, and a girl twisted her ankle. And they have the medical doctor run out, and he's got a stethoscope around her neck in the field. He's running out there, and it's kind of hilarious. And all of a sudden, they take her off, and I see they do this to her. Yes, I got shorts on, okay? I got new style, shorts and big, okay? But anyway, I digress. But the idea is this, and what they do, and they put ice on it. I'm like going, oh my goodness, you're already working against what your body is genetically programmed to do. Yes, but let me ask you, doctor, are you slowing the healing response down? Yes, but nope, no but. Answer the question. For all you jury of my peers, what do you think? See, so remember, inflammation is necessary, but it must resolve. Now, if that ankle stays inflamed for a long period of time, now necrosis and damage and even more damage to the surrounding tissues happen. And they're like, but see, now the tissue, blah, 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 blah. But initially, it was necessary, but it must resolve. See, and that's why when you look, Time Magazine did a wonderful example. It's surprising to them because they don't have the perspective. The surprising links between inflammation, heart attacks, cancer, Alzheimer's, and other diseases. What we can do to fight it. Yeah, and they're all just about knocking it down. Do you know initially inflammation is absolutely a beautiful thing? Now, I'm hoping it doesn't have to happen because your immune system says, foreign, doesn't belong here, I got to adapt, I got to do all these things. But initially it's there to create a certain response. And then it has to help itself regulate. And if it doesn't get regulated, now some, like we talk about, inflammation can contribute to heart attacks, cancer, Alzheimer's, and other diseases. So what I want to do is this. As you guys know, I always try to take the concepts that they teach that are so complex and break them down to you if you can understand. That's why I do analogies, fire department cover. And so I did. It's me and my graphics team, and we did this a long time ago. I think these things are 20 years ago. I want you to picture that once again, that warehouse, okay? And we're gonna have some burglar come in. So let's do this when it comes to our immune system. So let's take a look. So Tom, you're gonna have to keep this up for a little bit so you guys are gonna hear my voice, but I want you to watch the screen. Yes, and I put a big old wall there. You know, Sam, that's the Trump-Mexican border wall right there. Okay, here we go, all right? So now, and yes, everybody stop asking me about the Elon Musk Trump fight. I don't care. People fight all the time, even fight dirty. You fight to win, okay? Anyways, I digress. Let's go here. You can see there's external environment. That could be a toxin, bacteria, virus, a food. And guess what happens? As it crosses through our barrier, if it's not done properly, even if it does, we have little cells, little macrophages. We're going to talk about those in weeks to come. And then we have some helper cells. Oh my goodness, some regular cells. And also what they do is hey, we got this guy here and we're going to attach to him. It's like the bouncer, all right? And then what they do, they start talking to all their other immune cells and say, do we need to kill this guy? Because I have natural killers, I have cytotoxic killers, I have the guys that are the guys that are the badasses, I have the guys that are going to do some stuff and eat them up and destroy them. And then we got to create some memory to it. So if they come back, we know what they are. But then when we have the whole police there, guess what happens? Sometimes the police, they hang around. They kind of beat up on the guy who doesn't need to beat up as much. You already got him in handcuffs. But what happens, so we need a good old sergeant there that regulates everything. And he even has little guys going, hey, we got to keep you guys under control. Okay? And so, yes, BLM, you can use my whole thing there. That's okay. Okay, there we go. But that being said, all right, I told you I'm sassy today, guys. So here we go. But the idea is this. Now, why I want to show you that is this. Not only do we have an immune response, and then we have regular cells, we have all these things. And what if I told you these things were measurable? They are. See, that was the thing that when I was a teenager, I'm not joking, guys. I was a teenager because of my health history. See, people always say, you know, Doc, you know, how did you become a success? Okay. You have to have purpose. You have to have meaning. Because if your purpose is just to make a living, to make money, yeah, you can do great things in good capitalism, make great money, but then you have to have something that's greater than purpose. My purpose when I was young is I had something I had to resolve. And then I found out other people need those things resolved. And then I just became a problem solver for things that people that couldn't get solved. And that's basically capitalism, okay? And then we tried to actually look at these things and add value to people and go, let's teach them so you understand it. And then when you start to learn these things, you go to people that say, yes, but, you say, and so I'm trying to show you the concepts which you can talk about and actually give them to the point where they might even get frustrated. They do, to the point where, no joke, people were frustrated during COVID when I was saying, hey, here's what's going on. Yes, but, because they get angry during the but part. Now, that being said, as we look at this chart again, those regulatory cells are some of the most important cells that we do have when it comes to our immune system. Because they help the immune system, they direct it, they kind of control it, they tell you what to do. It's not a mistake, okay? But if those regulatory cells get low, there can be some issues, even to the point where it'll start going after cells and actually going a little too much and creating necrosis and that. So we need those things. So T regulators are very important to me. So let's take a look. It's a crucial aspect of the immune system, as you can see, maintaining immune tolerance, reducing chronic inflammation, and preventing autoimmune conditions. You're right. Because if all of a sudden, once again, it's basically that all of a sudden there is a riot and the police come out and they get it under control, but they continue to beat them. And can't we all just get along? Mike and I understand the reference, okay? And because the regular cell comes out and says, hey, we got to knock this off. We got to keep this inflammation down, and we got to prevent from you destroying normal tissue around the place. So T regular cells are very important. That's why you notice these cells are predominantly low in autoimmune conditions. If you seem like you respond so crazily to like a pollen or an allergen or a food, these regular cells, once again, are the ones that say, hey, we got to correlate this, create homeostasis, do all these things. It's maintaining the tolerance to the immune response while still doing repair and not leading to major necrosis. So I want to do to you guys is I wanted to show you some things that you can do on a regular basis to help not only support them, but make sure that you have sufficient ones. Now, I'm all about labs. We're going to get into that in a little bit. Okay, not today. Because like I said, we try to keep our show to a certain time. That's why we're going to do a bunch of series. But so what I'm going to do is I want you to show you some nutritional things that you can do and some herbal things you can do and the support things you can do to help support these things, to actually help regulate them to make sure that you do this. And you guys know this. I want to teach you something, and that's why I'm doing this today. Do you ever notice that when people on my lives, which we do lives weekly and stuff like that, now if I'm traveling sometimes, and sometimes I do more, sometimes I do less, I wish I could just do media. I really wish I could. But I can't. I'm running a big, huge company all across the world with everything that we do. And so I can't go live every day, even though I want to. And even though my team's trying to push me to do more, I'm going to do it. Okay. That being said, we talk about the immune system. I say, listen, you got to make sure these levels are good. Now let's look at those things. Number one, nutritional support for T regulatory production. Vitamin D. Vitamin D is so important. If there's one thing, if I could just really get you to understand, your vitamin D levels are so vital for T regulatory cells. That's why I watched this during COVID. Please, people, yes, please send me videos. Do me a favor. I'm going to do some. Dana and I were talking about this. She's like, I really could get some videos and make some comments on them. I really don't like to do that, but I understand why she wants me to do it. And it's a good idea because people say out there, I'm just giving a different perspective. So I watch people do not take vitamin D during COVID because it's a steroid that suppresses your immune response. Oh my goodness. And I watch people send articles to me, and this woman says, don't take vitamin D. I'm like, okay. I tried to call her up and say, let's debate it on my show. Zero response. Because that's not how it works, okay? Vitamin D, once again, enhances the T regulation, differentiation, and function by binding to the vitamin D receptor on immune cells. It's not a drug, okay? The hormone itself is not a drug. It knows you actually think that you're going to force the body to do something by taking vitamin D. Your body will take your D3K2 and use it to convert and do the things it needs to do. You're not taking prednisone. You're not taking a steroid and suppressing your immune response. It helps regulate it, okay? By far. So if you're sitting here right now and you're dealing with some immune issues, you need to get your vitamin D levels checked. You need to make sure that they might be on the higher end. If you have, just in general, the lab values are ridiculously low. They have a 30. I wouldn't want to see anybody below 50. A range of 50 to 70 would be great. If you have any autoimmune condition or higher, you want to go higher than that. But that's why it's good labs. Second of all, omega-3 fatty acids. Yes. Oh, you now wonder why I love cod liver oil. But let's go back up to the vitamin D3. Sunlight, number one. Fatty fish, cod liver, egg yolks. You might need supplementation if you live up by us. Omega-3s reduce inflammatory cytokines. They favor Treg expansion. With sources, salmon, sardines. I love sardines. And I love chia. I love chia pudding. There's nothing cooler than eating chia pudding and pooping out chia later, okay? It's kind of cool, all right? Here we go. Vitamin A. Vitamin A. This is one of the most missed things for our immune response. Promotes gut homing to Tregs, especially the synergy of the TGF-beta. We'll get into that in our shows. Look at the source. Liver. You wonder why I love organ meats. Pasture-raised eggs, cod liver oil, yellow and orange veggies. And those are provitamins. They're not vitamin A. They're provitamins. You cannot get vitamin A from vegetables. Short chain fatty acids, people, why I love fiber so much. For all my carnivore friends over here, that's why I cannot give up fiber. I cannot give up chicken root. I cannot give up sauerkraut. I cannot give up the things. Because so when these carnivore people say, you don't need that stuff, well, then tell my immune system that, because let's take a look. Short chain fatty acids like butyrate, propionate, acetate promote T regulation in the gut. Resistant starches, guess what happens? Fermented foods, soluble fibers, all help produce those short chain fatty acids. And of course, our polyphenols and flavonoids, which you can get from so many herbs. You also get it from green tea. That's why I love green tea. Turmeric, onions. Oh, I love onions. Resveratrol, aka Japanese knotweed. All these great things to support. But as you understand, supplementation is very important. Reishi mushroom has a significant immunomodulatory effect, including noble influences on T regulatory cells. While traditional and known as an adaptogen anti-cancer agent, modern research shows its effect on both innate and adaptive immunity, including promotion of immune tolerance via T regulatory cells. As you guys know, guys, I travel with reishi mushroom everywhere I go. I have some source of vitamin D during the winter that I take with me, vitamin D3K2, and I take significant amount of both of them when I travel. Because why? Because if I go here to Montana, it's a foreign country. There's different environment. There's different pollens. There's different bacteria. They're all over. I'm coming in contact with people. I'm coming in contact with people that have viruses come in and mutate. And so therefore, I'm going to set my body up on, you see that chart, the homeostasis, that green thing. It'll fluctuate a little bit back and forth. And therefore, guess what happens? If all of a sudden I do come in contact with something, my body, I don't even notice. That's why when people say, I went to Florida and, came back and I need a vacation for my vacation because I feel sick. Yeah, because usually you eat really bad. You come in contact with a lot of bad things. All of a sudden you get home, your body's like, oh, now I'm highly inflammatory. But see, I don't allow my body to do that because I travel all over the world consistently. I have to travel this month and next month and the month after. And I don't have time to be knocked down. And I know how important my immune response is for me to stay strong in every single way. Now, I just put up here for your notes all the mechanism of action of how reishi actually works. See, there's so much good science behind this. And I love that, our public health talks about vitamin D and talks about reishi mushroom and talks about all the things to help regulate and support that homeostasis immune system. Oh, wait, they don't. They talk about germ theory, create fear, vaccines, steroids, all these things over here, which once again, if you live in that world, I'm cool with it, but don't forget the world that exists in between that I'm talking about over the next series. So, for all you guys in the comments below, all the jury of peers, I want you to think about this in my closing statement today. Immunity is viewed as a process, not object. While immunity may exist as a discrete thing, immune homeostasis clearly does tissue surveillance, searches out things, damage detection, even if you twist that ankle, cytokine immune hormone signaling, repair and memory creation. From a biological process standpoint, the way it really works, immunity exists, but only as a dynamic, ever-changing fluctuation function of a whole organism. It's a noun, not a verb. It's not a noun, it's a verb. It's not a person, place, or thing. It's an active functioning thing. It's more of a verb. So if you look at your immune system, more of a verb, not a noun. So as I continue to present my case to you, I will get into detail of autoimmune. I'll get the detail of vaccines. I'll get the detail of all of it that way. And even show you the mechanism of actions that do happen. And you're going to notice that, as you saw in the video from that biologist, the evolutionary biologist, that they cause inflammation. Vaccines. Initially, it's okay. But guess what happens? And a lot of these children have high inflammatory states, which leads in a lot of degenerative processes, including autism. That being said, we have some wonderful things as far as giveaways. So, Dr. Lucas, Dr. Kendra, and Aaron, what do we have for today for our people?
Wow, that was exciting.
Yes, a lot of great interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's excited
Yes.
to learn more about that immune response, right?
Yeah, a lot of people popped up about how relatives are sick right now, actually.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's help them out.
Right.
Yeah.
What have we got?
Yeah, over on Facebook, someone said they love a knowledge booster here on Saturday morning. So I thought that was a great way to talk about that.
Yeah.
So we have Kimmy Heil, Toby Johnson, Darlene Farante, and then Ramona McClary, and also Sharon McClary. I don't know if they're family, but
all right.
Congrats.
All right, fabulous. What's going on over on Instagram? You got fun handles today?
Maybe one.
Maybe.
Not as crazy as it usually is, but Carrie Becker, Jessica Nile or Nilly, Christina Cares, we'd like to care about you guys as well. HB Mom Danielle and Sarah Turner 01, you are all winners of Straggulus. Especially for some of you out there, you're going to want that.
Absolutely. All right, my ADP friends, you guys keep this conversation going. So fun every Saturday to see y'all. So we have Kara, Tracy Moss Walter, Sarah Simpson, C Rose. I'm thinking that's how we're pronouncing this. Capital C, little Rose, right? Heart for Cairo. So those, I got a fun handle today too.
Yeah.
So there we go. All right, you guys, you know what to do. Email giveaways at thewellnessway.com and Allie will get you set up on Monday.
All right. So as we always do, we have new segments that we add in. You can see we're continuing to add more talent, change the show, give you guys great information. And now remember, what is Saturdays about? Saturdays are nothing more than to give you information that you can go and research and check and all things. That's why we put our references. That's what we do. That's why we recap it on Tuesday, just to actually show you some of the highlights. That's why we put it in articles. And we consider to give you information so you guys can take it and actually take control of your own health. It's kind of fun because we always give a different perspective. And it does come with some resistance. It's kind of interesting because as you start to learn things and start to share things, people freak out. I would tell people, everything's basically a religion. You have beliefs, and when people challenge your beliefs, people get angry and stuff. But I had to be angry myself, knowing that I was taught things, even in school, that would lead to other people's destruction. I want you to think about that. I want you to imagine that you're in a profession, it's not mine, but in a profession that you could lead people down the wrong path and even lead to sickness and illness, and then the results show. That's why we're so sick across the world today. But that being said, we always have good headlines across the world. And so we're going to move into our new segment, Beyond the Headlines. All right, Aaron, what we got for headlines today?
Well, this is bonkers because you and I never talk about what we're going to talk about. Right?
Nope.
But here we are, your article at the top and how you just wrapped it up. This is all going to come full circle. So this first article is a little bit longer. Hang with me though, because it almost sounds like a Wellness Way approach commercial. All right, so NBC News this week announced 2 patients faced chemo. The one who survived got a test to see if it was safe. Okay, so let's go into this article a little bit further. We have Joe Ellen. This is actually a really sad story. Joe Ellen was at the New York City's renowned Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, took her first dose of chemo pills January 29th. They didn't realize that the drug had the potential to actually kill her. 6 days later, she went back to the urgent care department to treat sores in her mouth and swelling around her eyes. The hospital diagnosed oral yeast infection and sent her home. Her sister and partner said 2 days later, she returned in agony with severe diarrhea and vomiting and was admitted with enzyme deficiency, she had texted a friend. The 65-year-old was a patient advocate who had worked for the National Multiple Sclerosis Society and other groups, but she would never go home. Covered in bruises and unable to swallow or talk, she eventually entered hospice care and died March 25th from the very drug that was supposed to extend her life. And her longtime partner, Richard, said that she was deficient in the enzyme that metabolizes the chemotherapy drug she took. And about 1,300 Americans each year die from the toxic effects of that pill or its cousin, a similar drug. Okay, so if we continue on into that article, doctors can test for this deficiency and then either switch drugs or lower the dosage if patients have a genetic variant that carries risk. The FDA actually approved an antidote in 2015, but it's expensive and must be administered within 4 days of the first chemotherapy treatment. Newer cancer drugs sometimes include companion diagnostic to determine whether a drug works with an individual patient's genetics. But when this specific drug went to the market in 1962 and sells for about $17 a dose, producers of its generic aren't even seeking approval for toxicity because it typically covers hundreds of dollars. Continuing on, like I said, this one's a little bit long, but hang with me. By the time that her doctors told her that she had this deficiency, she had been on the drug for 8 days. And so as her partner was watching over her and her sister throughout that 7-week ordeal, he went on to say that they would have asked for the test if they had known about it, but nobody told them that there was actually a possibility of this deficiency and to test for this deficiency. So she wasn't warned about the fatal risks of the chemo or told about the test. They never said they never said why they didn't test her. If the test existed, they should have said there is a test. If they said insurance won't cover it, I would have said, here's my credit card. We should have known about it. Okay. So we often talk about, right, informed consent and understanding all of that and testing to see if this is something that would help patients, right? Again, if we continue down, we've just got a couple more slides on this. There is the next part of it went a different direction. Emily, a 42-year-old biotech salesperson, was aware of this test, right? So they told her they didn't do the deficiency testing, but she insisted, nope, I'm not starting it until I get that test back. The test showed that she actually had the copy of the risky gene variant, right? So they gave her a lower dose of the drug and had to adjust from there. Around 300,000 people a year are treated with this disease in the US. And if you go down a little bit further, its toxicity would have prevented the FDA from approving this drug had it been up for approval right now. So a little bit further down, we talk about the FDA's top cancer expert said that it was time to end the debate, commence testing, even if the results could be ambiguous. If you don't have the information, how do you have counseling, right? That sounds quite a bit like the Wellness Way approach. 2 months later, the panel changed course. The price of the tests have fallen below $300, and results can be returned as soon as 3 days later. So it's not really delaying treatment when we look at it, right? And then following up the article, right, people just going on and on and on about what's better. Don't tell the patients about the test, don't test them, right? So many other things going on. In fact, one of the people in the end said, people say oncologists don't know what to do with the information. Said Karen Merritt, whose mother died after an infusion in 2014. Well, I'm not a doctor, but I can understand the Mayo Clinic report on it. So all this to say, Doc, we don't guess, we test, right? This has been part of the Wellness Way philosophy since you started. And knowing some of these things, and in one of your lives this week, I heard you talking about the number 3 cause of death. So what's your reaction? What you got here?
Well, a couple of things. You know, what people do is they have standards of care, and that's just not a standard of care. So I encourage people, like I said before, the quality of life will be determined by the quality of questions you ask. So what you do go into doctors, regardless of if you need chemotherapy or radiation, just ask more questions. You know, research your own that way. This concept of saying, well, I just trust my doctor blindly, that would never work in any other profession that way. And so therefore, just go in there, ask quality questions, research things to great detail, and then you'll actually have a better outcome. Because look at the difference. The person just knew a little bit more knowledge. That's the idea. Knowledge and action together have great results. So that person had better knowledge. She actually asked the doctor, wouldn't proceed without it that way. And it's really funny because a lot of doctors, we hear this all the time, will say, well, I won't do it because this is this. You're gonna find out, most doctors, if you say you'll pay cash, they'll do anything you want. Because then they're not held by insurance standards, which could get them in trouble. So remember, standard of care, if you do everything right in standard of care and you die, they're not liable. You go off track a little bit that way and they die, then they can call you liable. So therefore, once again, they're in a little bit of a conundrum that way, but just continue to ask more questions and see what else can be done.
Yeah. I just thought that was quite interesting that, right, it follows along with the philosophy that we've always had in testing and figuring out and finding out, is there a test for this that we can ask the right questions, right? So, all right, we've been on, it feels like Wegovy is a roller coaster that just, it's the gift that keeps on giving new headlines every week. And I was trying to decide which one to go with this week. But let's take a look at this one, because I know that there are several things in here that we can hit on. Women are warned that the weight loss jabs may affect the pill. Okay, so in the article, women using weight loss jabs have been warned by the UK's medicines regulator that they must use effective contraception. So it warns that these weight loss jabs make the contraceptive pill less likely to work in those who are overweight or obese. And there are concerns that the growing popularity of these skinny jabs means many women aren't using the drug safely or getting the right advice. Continuing down a bit further, it's thought that the contraceptive pill may not be absorbed properly due to common side effects of the jabs, such as vomiting and diarrhea, and because they slow the emptying of the stomach. So the MHRA, which is basically the UK's version of the FDA, I know a lot of initials there, but you can follow me. So while these drugs are being used, right, considering an additional form of contraception, because as it's bullet pointed there, the drug's safety body says weight loss injections must not be taken during pregnancy, while trying to get pregnant, or during breastfeeding, right? So numerous pregnancies have come out as an unexpected situation while women are on these injections. So continuing on, I found this one interesting. The Guardian actually reported last year that there was a Facebook group, I Got Pregnant on Ozempic, that had more than 750 members at that time, right? And these drugs haven't been tested at all, as most things aren't, on pregnant women or anything of that, right? Like, because that's an ethical issue, right? We don't run scientific experiments on pregnant women, but even the months right after, right? Protecting that body and getting that body ready for pregnancy. So it just seems like there's another situation where we're running into Wegovy not going quite as expected. So besides the birth control aspect, what you got for us?
Nothing. It's just a bunch of drug soup mix. You saying it's like person takes the medication, and as you change digestion, you get skinnier. Now people want to sleep with you more. They have more chance of getting pregnant, and therefore, guess what happens from there?
I guess that's another way to look at that one.
And now birth control's not working. So, what I'm saying? I just think both those medications are not necessary for the vast majority of people that way. So, especially birth control. Birth control, it's kind of a scary thing that way. So,
right. Yeah.
Just the world of medications and playing Russian roulette with a lot of things.
Yeah. And when you combine a couple of different ones and all of a sudden nothing's working, right? Like you're just got left with a lot of side effects.
Yes.
So, all right. Well, that's what I found this week.
Excellent. Now, thanks to Aaron for always giving us a little behind the scenes on that stuff. And but now we got to go to actually with Dana Discrees.